Welcome to another episode of Denver Metal Things. In this episode, we're going to go see a show at Summit Music Hall. Check out what that experience is like. And beforehand, we're going to look at all the different sites around the ballpark at Coors Field where the Rockies play. So I'm walking right now into McGregor Square, which has a couple shops and also has some places to eat. So I usually like to come here or the Milk Market to get something to eat before going to Summit, or going to Marquee, which I'll show is right down the street from Summit. Just a quick tip, if you don't get food ahead of time, you could get pizza at either Summit or Marquee, and it's good pizza. They also have garlic knots and some other kind of random things, so you don't necessarily have to try to eat beforehand. So let's get to it. I decided to go to the Milk Market. They have restaurants such as Fuso Italian food, Cornicello ice cream, Kanja Ethiopian food, Yumcha dumplings, and a few bars to wet your whistle. The lineup for the show at Summit was 4 bands, starting with Reverent, Psycho Frame, Emmure, and the headliner was Spike. At Fuso, I ordered the pappardelle ragu, and it was very tasty. To show you the proximity of the various venues to Coors Field within Lower Downtown, or LoDo as it's known, I walked to Marquee, which is 1 block north and 1 block east of Summit. Both venues are managed by Live Nation. The show was listed to start at 6 p.m., but the doors actually opened at 6 p.m. and the show started at 7. People were lined up at around 5 o'clock. I just got to Summit. It looks like the line has already started. I'll just walk by it. Rather than wait in line at Summit, I went to 1UP Arcade, which is across the street. This is the original location of 1UP, and you can accompany your kids before 8 p.m., which is plenty of time to go before most concerts. There's a combo of retro games like Galaga, Pac-Girl, Centipede, and Pinball. My new favorite game is Gyrus, which I had heard about but never played in real life. I even achieved high score. As you walk into Summit, you will notice the bar is in the back of the venue with the main floor surrounded by a balcony. This is a common setup for other venues like Ogden, Bird, and the Fillmore. In some venues, the balcony is first come first served. Others, like Summit, they are sold at a premium price. I decided to have a reserved balcony seat for this show and enjoyed the view. You get a special wristband to enter the balcony, but are allowed to go down to the main floor as well. Here was my seat for the evening. Here's the merch setup, which is over to the right back left side of the venue. There is no reservation system like at the Fillmore, so you have to wait in line.
We're gonna play some songs. Open the shit up in the fucking middle and just get started. This one's called Stillwater Salvation. Fucking gun in my throat. We are Psycho Frame. What the fuck?
Here's a sample of the food that is available, which is pizza based. The gentleman next to me got garlic knots and meatballs. I personally have both of these and they are quite tasty. There is also coat check available if that is something that you need. The ADA section is off stage left and leaves something to be desired. Although it has a decent view of the stage, the sound is pretty bad as the speaker array is not properly set up to service this area. Here's a view of the speaker array that gives decent sound to this medium venue. The sound certainly is impacted by where you stand or sit. The balcony and center stage sound the best. That was the show. If you want a bite to eat afterwards, there is your bacon wrap hot dog. So show was really cool. I bought some vinyl from Reverend, which was the first band. Singer was like 17 years old. They're from Southern California. Got that vinyl, super heavy. Like everything is just like bass hits and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see those kids, you know, what they're doing these days. Last thing, I'm walking home. I took an Uber there, which I don't really know any good parking options. So I Uber because it's only about 2 miles from where I live. I just get the opportunity usually to walk home. So that's what I'm doing. Just left and just wanted to share some downtown Denver cool sights. So there's this church that I walk by when I walk home from Summit, which it's been 2 shows in the past like 3 months. And if you look, they actually built a high-rise around it rather than tearing it down. I'll go across the street as well. Hopefully don't get hit by a car. Here you can see that they built this pavilion over the church so that it's not completely blocked. Denver's most recognizable, famous building. It's the Wells Fargo building, and you can kind of see it from this angle, but the top of it is supposed to have a profile of a cash register. So that's our most distinct building. If you see it in a Denver skyline, it should stand out. Another odd thing about Denver, or I guess interesting fact, is that downtown is on a grid and everything around downtown is on a grid, but the downtown grid is slightly off compared to the rest of the grid. So there are these weird intersections where you can tell the grid slightly changes. So it's literally like at a diagonal to the rest of, like at a 45-degree angle to the rest of the city, which is really confusing because if you go down, say like 19th, which is what I'm on, it will suddenly bend and go like slightly right or slightly left. So it's really confusing if you're trying to drive downtown because you think the street's going to be straight, and and then all of a sudden it turns. Here's a good view of that slight offset of the grid right there. Because you have this building that's like the Flatiron building in New York. It's in a triangle. But that happens on pretty much every street that connects to the outlying areas, which I live on the outlying area, which is, again, I'm 2 miles from Summit, but I'm probably about 1.5 miles or less from proper downtown with all the big buildings. I'm going by another church. Here's the Capitol. Down here just to give a little bit more explanation as far as what the different parts of town are called. So the ballpark or course field where the Rockies play is called LoDo, stands for Lower Downtown. And then I walked through proper downtown with all the big buildings. And then I'm walking down 18th, and I'm actually walking into Uptown, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's not on the top of downtown, it's up to the side of it, but that's what Uptown is. And Uptown's pretty chill. It has a bunch of restaurants, some shops, and then you eventually end up, if you go more south, you end up in Capitol Hill, which the Capitol is really the start of that neighborhood. And then if you keep walking east, then you end up in my neighborhood, which is Cheeseman Park. Cheeseman Park is not a neighborhood that people are familiar with, but it's essentially around Cheeseman Park, and it's Cheeseman without an E after the S, which is a distinctive spelling. But that's a overview of the different neighborhoods we walked through. There are quite a lot of things to look at, which makes it fun, and everything looks different at nighttime with the lights.